You're listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by NACS. Whether it's for food, fuel, drinks, or snacks, about half the U.S. population shops at a convenience store every day. We'll talk about what we see at stores and what the future may hold for our industry.
Welcome to Convenience Matters. My name's Carolyn Schnare, and I'm with NACS.
And I'm Donovan Woods with NACS as well as the Fuels Institute.
And today we're going to talk about the people working in our stores and why we want to take good care of them, how we can train them, both with a mobile-ready platform, what's out there, and why it's really important in today's tight labor market to really tell our employees that we care about them and our customers. And to tell us more, Jeff Kaler is joining us. He's the president of Ready Trading Online. Tell me about RTO, please.
Sure. So we are an e-learning platform focused primarily in service industries with a really heavy presence in convenience stores. And so we develop training. We deliver it and document it through our e-learning platform, learning management, LMS. There's a lot of titles to that.
TLAs, we call them, a three-letter acronym.
Yep. There's a lot of acronyms there. That's for sure. But CBT, you've heard that and all of that. And so we have the platform, and then we have the content that sits on top of that, much like an app on a phone. So content's added to the platform, and the platform's what drives the content and delivers it.
So I know NACS has been working with RTO for several years, many years now, and dozens, hundreds of retailers have told me how important it is to use that to get their employees up to speed. So what is one of the most important things that a convenience store operator can teach its employees?
From an operational standpoint, is the guest experience. How to handle those kinds of issues that come up, multiple people standing in a line, when to open the next lane, how to greet them, how to make sure that they're there, eye contact, the Be Our Guest, which is on the platform, that product, to make sure that you're doing all those things important to the customer.
Because we want them coming back.
Absolutely, and not only that, you have less people to impact the customer. So if you went into just using a brand, a pharmaceutical or a retail operation, there's probably 3 people to contact your guest. And so even if one makes an error or one's not nice or one doesn't cause them to come back, you get the opportunity, maybe 1 or 2 times at least to pick it back up. In a convenience store, a lot of times it's one person. So you have that single shot at making it right. And with today's market and competitive edge and all that, you want to make sure that you make that one lasting impression for sure.
And customers are in and out in 3 minutes. Generally, from the time you park your car until you're in, you get what you need, whether it's food, drink, whatever, use the restroom. You get out, you get 3 minutes. So you need to maximize that and make them happy. And
that's getting faster every day.
I believe that. Now, question for you. How has that changed the customer's view of the stores, having employees who are properly trained, getting continuing education? How has that changed their interaction?
So our number one training module on the platform, believe it or not, is restroom care.
I believe it. I do.
That's now becoming an ever-growing, experience destination shop, making sure that you become that primary place. And
America's bathroom. That's what sometimes our convenience stores are, but that's a good thing.
And so more of a focus on that. I mean, there's a lot of other issues, of course, but making sure that the employee knows what stocking the shelf means. The terms. One of the products we're working on right now is just a simple terms module. You hear stocking the shelf, facing the shelf, cleaning the shelf.
What's a SKU?
You would have no idea how many people start this job, and maybe it's their first job, or maybe it's something that they're coming from another industry, and maybe they're a transplant into retail from some other world. Those kinds of things really matter to the worker, and it's our job to make sure that they get it. Granted, the management team, the training staff do a great job, but for consistency, we believe that the platform really allows you to get that concentrated message out to the folks.
I like that, and I would assume it also changes the perspective of prospective employees when they think about applying for a job, thinking this is going to not be just something where people will think is an easy job, but it's something you can actually grow into.
Yep. And we hear that a lot, even with retailers that have subsets inside their company, other products, franchises and all, that they'll have a complete, robust learning platform built out, delivered, executed well, and then they have really nothing for their retailers. So they go, well, they could use this to learn how to build whatever they build or do whatever they do. And a lot of your franchise communities don't touch HR issues. A lot of your bigger franchises, the world's largest and the second largest, don't even most of the time support any HR because that's a local thing. So we get a lot of that where they cross over. We'll take the HR, the harassment, diversity, the violence, the things like that we monitor and maintain, and then we'll give them. So they'll use that for their employees on our RTO platform, and then they'll go ahead and give them their subset with the other with the other learning platform.
So that's interesting. You said that you were talking about some really difficult topics to talk about, which is maybe what could scare people from looking for a job, but which is violence or harassment these days, or anything. So how do you approach a topic without necessarily scaring a new employee, whether young, old, first timer, been around for a while? Do you have any examples that you've heard of work really well?
So yeah, but if you think about education in general, we give our children even extended education and continue learning because we care about them, because we want them to know more. If you look at like robbery deterrence, right? You look at that as a simple, and I know we worked with with NACS and the organization to make sure that all met. But a gentleman and a good friend of mine came to me one time and said, I started a job, and on my very first night, I got robbed. And no one ever told me anything. They didn't tell me what to do. My associate was in the back, and if they'd have walked out, no one knows what would have happened. And I think to give people a fair shot, one of the things about the industry that I talk to people a lot about is putting them on the floor too fast, right? So fastest to the floor, that's always the motivator. We got labor costs, we got labor issues.
You're hired to work here, get out there.
Yep, and so what we try to do is break that down through what we call early success. And if you make people successful and you give them the right education, I think they'll know you care. And that matters more, the empathy part, the trust that says, look, I'm gonna care about you. I'm gonna give you more than you bargained for. And when you come here, we're a culture of care. Right. And that changes everything, And so that's what people, what our client base and our customers and folks that we've worked with, they really look for that in the platform, and they like it because it's structured. You can give them what they want when they want. And of course, there's a whole lot of other, topics from alcohol, tobacco, and regulations and all. But just to give you an idea, robbery, restroom care, loss prevention. In other words, everybody really is a loss prevention specialist. You get into credit card security, PCI regulations. You get into all those things that really affect the retailer.
Inside and outside the store.
Yeah. Oh, and safety. We when we first went live with our stocking the fuel island module, we worked with a major supplier of safety vests, and a lot of our retailers went, and I think in the first year we sold, I want to say some 30,000 safety vests, because some clients didn't even have one, let alone size appropriate and all that. And so when they went out to the pump, it's one thing to have the safe floor sign, but they didn't have the safety vest. And if you know anything about it in the industry, some people have even been killed at the island because of that.
I believe that. You mentioned how it would, the employee comes on, they know that there's future training. I would assume it also gives them something not only to strive for, but to stay with your companies longer, to pick up different skills. But when do they learn this? I don't mean what time of the day that they do this, but is this a manual that they would get on the hire date before they are actually on the floor, or is it something later on in their hiring process?
So it really starts from hire to retire, so you're always learning.
Like that.
And so the platform itself, we have stuff that we've given, some like paper, some like digital, success guides.
Okay.
And most people think those success guides are for the manager and all those things, and they're really for the employee, because the employee is really at the manager's beck and call. And our managers are already overwhelmed, and I say are because we're so tied to the industry, but the managers are just overwhelmed with tasks and things to do. And if you took a regular entry-level frontline employee and you told them what the manager was going to be showing them in the first 3, 5, 7 days, it really does empower the employee, which a lot of people don't think about. But if you're reaching down, bypassing, the zones or regionals and areas and districts and all that stuff, there's a lot of miscommunication that happens there. You're talking about a direct connect right to the frontline employee, and you can talk to them. through messaging, through building your own content, through what's up and coming. You can now message and talk direct to that.
So there's ownership even for the employee to feel as though they're a part of this. It's not being pushed on them.
And not only that, you're holding the manager accountable.
I like that.
And again, that doesn't mean that you're going to go and some companies have done that, put out messaging that says, if you're not getting the value here and something's not going right in your training, I want you to call my direct number. I mean, it's that important because if you can keep them 30 days, I think that's what the statistic is in labor, and you guys will probably know with industry a lot more about that. But I think they said if you can take them 30, they last so much longer.
I believe that.
Our goal is to really take them and bring them in and make them feel included, plus cultural messages. In other words, how's our culture here? What do we do here different? And that's where we can customize the platform, add custom content, welcome messages. We just did a company that did each what we call workshop or departmental division, did an entry level from that department head.
Oh.
And so before they took these 3 or 4 modules related to HR, they met the HR manager, even though it was digital.
That's cool though, because I mean, you're like, it's just some AI or this disembodied person telling me to clean the bathrooms, but it's personal. I'm like, oh, I know that person.
And if I don't know them, when I see them, I'll know them. If they're out and about or they're on a television commercial, you've kind of talked to them. And as you look at that, and again, that whole realm of the AI and the VR and as those things progress, will be becoming an ever part of our business and the platform. But in the same point, nothing beats the human touch. Nothing, and it's really changed the way that they feel that they know people. Like if you call somebody, at least I've never met you, as far as that in person.
Yeah.
But it just makes it feel, now I got that face to name and that kind of stuff. It really makes it personal.
Especially in the big companies too, when you're like, I don't know who that person, the CEO, I've never met. Well, the CEO said hi to me.
And it's such a small investment when you start looking at the cost that you put in turnover.
Right.
It's just incredible, when you start to look at what that cost you, for a 30-day tenure there. Uniforms, the cost, this, that, and the other. You start adding that up, and you say, would it really pay for me to make an investment in some technology? And you have to. I mean, the world's changing, the culture's changing, and being a mobile platform, they, from whatever they're doing on back office equipment, stuff like that. And so it's changing the world for sure, and it's fun to be a part of it.
So we're in a tight labor market right now. I mean, last I looked, I don't think it's changed drastically. Unemployment's at an all-time low, so it's hard to find employees, let alone good employees. And I've heard from some folks that they're like, what, I just need a body. I don't have time to worry about this. Why do I bother if they're just going to leave me in a week or two and go get a different job? So why should retailers? Why should they bother? Why should they train an employee?
So the reason that the company was founded by me, was I wanted to talk to the employees. I wanted the way to talk to somebody. I wanted the way to say, because there's a lot of people in the organization, i.e. managers or other folks that do a great job, but they can't speak with the passion that you have. And so if you can talk to your employees, think of a way that if you had 1,000 employees or 300 or 30, it doesn't matter, that you could sit down, record that message and pump it out real time, right? Without overburdening them too much, or talk to them in the beginning to let them know. That's the kind of stuff that we're looking to do. And in addition to that, why would somebody do it when you start looking at compliance and regulations, which are...
Sometimes you just have to do it.
There's so much going on to track every person and where they're at. It's just a lot of work.
And I would think that, and just so that all of our listeners know, it's not just you promoting your company and your services. Carolyn and I have both been at NACS over 5+ years. I've been there for 8 years. Carolyn, you've been there over 10 years.
15.
The reason when I interviewed was when I met with people, it was the culture.
Yeah.
When I met with people, it was the initial training, the orientation. It made you feel a part of something. So you did retain employees longer. And I think that translating over into the retailer would actually be beneficial because people feel as though they belong and they're a part of something.
Yeah, and if nobody knows about the marketing special, that there's a $500 bonus, right?
They can't go for it. They can't work for it.
Then there's no way, or if somebody else is trying to do it. It's really just a good way to communicate and talk to your employees. And again, not all the people do it that way, but there's a lot of advantages to hearing from the people that you work with and also the managers.
Now, if you're you mentioned there's compliance, like you have to train on checking IDs or there's pump execution. But if should you brag about this in your hiring? Like, hey, we train, but not only do we train, but we will give you XYZ training. You will know by your first week. Should we brag about training our employees?
Oh, sure. Not only that, we're going to give you enough time to train. Because if you
We're going to tell you what you're doing.
well, not only that, we're going to give you an opportunity to learn, whether you stay or not. We're going to give you to educate. There's so many things, from grocery, food service, compliance, fuel. I mean, you're talking about somebody coming in and getting a wide range. Even if they didn't say, and it's not their career, they could learn a lot about grocery, rotation, things like that. And so even if their career led them to fuel distribution or grocery chain or a food chain in management, and maybe there was no opportunity there or whatever, ideally, I'm sure with the opportunities, they'd like to grow them. And that's the other part of the system. As they go into that career, we have a career progression rather than just throwing them because they wear a belt and show up to assistant manager. The culture's kind of done that years ago. This is really to give them that career progression, so they say, look, I can become a merchandising specialist. I don't need the title, keys, and all that, but you give them a different color shirt, you give them a different tag, it really does make a difference to their thought about the company. So in 3 months, you can become a merchandising specialist. My goodness. And you probably go around and you got the little window clingy thing, and you're really good at that because that's what you love to do. And maybe you don't want to do schedules and time cards and deal with all that. But have a merchandising specialist that's already there and capitalize on that. A training specialist, somebody that's good at listening and all that. And most companies already have these things. Right. But you got to take and capitalize on them, and it takes work and effort.
You got to brag about it.
Yeah, and then there's a food service specialist. And then each one of those cogs go into a bigger picture to say, oh, now I can become an assistant manager or specialist or whatever. And that begins to grow your path. And then you take that. We have curriculum lined up all around that, everything from scheduling and sitting down and talking, interviewing skills and things like that. But the biggest thing is blended learning, too. I don't want to discount the human touch. I mean, this is not a solution that it's sit down and they learn everything. If they do that, the fail rate's high. I'm just letting you know, being honest. The fail rate's high when we don't have a human interaction. We lose. You need to have a human interaction as well, and we have that structured on the platform. But not even to bag ours. If you're doing any type of e-learning, and most companies are doing some sort, whether it's through an insurance company, whether it's through something they buy by seat, whether they do that, God bless you. We're totally an advocate of that. An educated customer is a good one. And we just love that people are getting educated, and that's our mission.
And contrary to what people may believe, there may be someone listening right now who says, well, if I give them all that, then they'll leave. And I've seen it at NACS, I've seen it in other places that I would say are reputable. The more training you get, actually, you stick around because you know what you're doing, and you can see how it can actually help the company. And you, again, it's about ownership and feeling as though you can add some value to that.
And now, Donovan, to that point, what your fellow employees are doing, too.
Correct.
You know that you're all learning the same thing, and that, the other person who starts 3 weeks after you
know where they're at.
Yeah.
I have 2 quick points I want to make. If you don't train them and they stay,
that reflects on your store and your customers see it.
So that's a real net loss right away. The other part is that think as a manager, right? Now, anybody listening, just think of a manager that comes to work. And can know on day one where my employee is all along the way. When I got to be there to meet them, to take them to do OJT exercises, which is the best thing, that interblended, sign-offs accordingly. I get that. And then on day 2, if you were out, unfortunately, sick, or Donovan was out, and you were filling in, you're not asking the employee what Carolyn did with them yesterday.
Right.
And that's super beneficial to know that there's a structured learning path in place and done right and executed right. This is win-win. And you're talking about labor. We did a few case studies. I mean, we've done a lot, but the biggest one is the owner, when they got summons to give this case study, they were not allowed to factor in the economy, the real stringent leadership, right, owner. And they went from 107 to 88. Now, they did that over 2 years, so it wasn't overnight. Like, you don't take this pill and all of a sudden everything goes away like anything else. And they really focused on it. They invested some in the custom packages. Not that I'm selling it, because that's not really what this is about. This is about really educating people how to educate their people. And they continue. They've been with us 11 years. Wow. And they continue to hit benchmarks of greater. Now, they got industry things that do come up, but, and the big thing that they're finding is that just telling people the truth and being honest with them up front, that these things may happen, or, because harassment for the longest time, our clients, a lot of them didn't want to give it to them. But in the culture we're in today, in the world,
you have to know.
It's a huge thing, and a lot of states are like mandating this stuff, and so you're really kind of almost limited, and And
Probably
that's-
both from within the company itself, but also
And-
customers. You know,
Correct.
They have to know. You need to know a lot of things,
But
but
nobody
we wanna
wants to
make
see
sure
that
they know it.
bantering going on.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, and so it's educating your employee and educating the customers, because sometimes the customers aren't the best customers.
Sometimes.
Well, we love them all.
We love them all.
But one thing I want to almost switch gear on one of our last topics. Recently, you announced, and we announced also, that we're partnering with In Our Backyard, which is, and their program is Convenience Stores Against Trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an amazing issue. I think our stores, our convenience stores that were open 24/7. We have a lot of customers coming in and out. Some of them are local, some of them are not, passing through town. And we have the opportunity to help some folks that are just passing through. And so can you tell me a little bit about your recent work with In Our Backyard and the CSAT program?
So that program is phenomenal. Again, there's a lot of them, but that one is just really, really phenomenal. Well done with the stickers in your restroom. I encourage anyone, it costs them nothing, zero. No matter your size of organization, no matter how you deliver content, no matter what, whether it's Seat, whether it's on our platform, whether it's something you do on your own, we will support that at zero cost to get that message out. And I cannot be more thrilled to partner with them as well as you guys, but I'm talking about just this initiative has really, really, because I have a 14-year-old. And I would never, ever want anything to happen, let alone to anyone, but especially that. And I look at it, and when you watch it, you're almost in shock. Like, you can't believe, or you say that doesn't happen. We had a customer tell us that,
Trafficking doesn't happening in my store.
in Vermont, that doesn't happen. Okay, we're not, that for whatever reason, it's like that's not something that affects our business. And I would say, then it hurts you nothing to do it. Mm-hmm. It costs you nothing to do it. There's absolutely no cost. There's nobody going to call you. That's not what we're doing. And part of the initiative, the entire team on our side was, this is not anything to do with sales. This is to do with souls. And people are human, and I can't say enough about what we do as an organization to make sure that message gets out to anybody that wants it at no cost at all. And you guys have been phenomenal. So thank you.
So where can people find that?
So they can go right to readytrainingonline.com. And get all the information, and it's also in our backyard.com.
Great. And so we work with you guys with NACS, so we can go to convenience.org/elearning.
Yep.
And learn more about RTO.
Yep.
Jeff, thank you for joining us
Sure.
today. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And thank you for listening to Convenience Matters.
Convenience Matters is brought to you by NACS and produced in partnership with Human Factor. For more information, visit convenience.org.